Hello, everybody. It is Friday in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My name is Adam Bittner, assistant sports editor for multimedia at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, joined by Post-Gazette sports columnist Paul Zeise, talking Pitt football. Paul, you're going to be in the spot late in the week. Moving forward, Jason Mackey, we were doing these shows when he was in his columnist role, but he's moved back to the Pirates beat. So we're excited to have you along in addition to your daily shows Monday through Wednesday. And the Steelers post-game show. We do all those shows live, but we're going to have you in these Friday spots with me as well. We're talking Pitt football and specifically the win against Florida State that seems to have a lot of Panther Nation buzzing. Paul, you're someone who watches both of those programs very closely. You're kind of like a Florida State Pitt hybrid. There's not a whole lot of people like you, I bet, in the world that watch both of those programs as closely as you do. Have you been surprised by the reaction to beating Florida State, given how bad Florida State was a year ago? Yes, they upset Alabama at home this season, but there still appear to be some flaws in that program with Mike Norvell.
Yeah.
Was that win for Pitt to you as legitimizing as people are treating it in this ACC title race and getting into the championship game potentially?
I think it's a good win. It's on the road against Florida State. I get it. And I think probably most people, though, that are assigning a value to it, probably higher than it needs to be, don't really follow Florida State close enough to understand. Now, we just got. This week we've gotten to talking a lot about James Franklin getting fired. I would say you could make a much better case that Mike Norvell should be fired than James Franklin. Look, Florida State's lost 8 ACC games in a row, right? I think in the last 2 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, they are now, 1-13 against FBS, power, whatever you want to call them, teams, right? Their lone win was against Alabama, which is incredible. But their defense stinks. They are a team that looks confused all the time. Their coaching, the head coach, to me, is a guy who is basically a lot more of Todd Graham and rah-rah than actually a really good coach. So, Pitt winning that game doesn't surprise me. What it does validate, however, is that this Heintchel kid is really good. And I think it's going to have a chance to be really good for Pitt. Mason Heintschel, the quarterback. What we've seen, obviously they've played 2 bad teams in a row, but what we've seen is he can make throws, that the other guy couldn't make. He's poised. He's got some stones, where he's willing to, make plays and try and make plays that maybe a lot of other guys wouldn't try and do. The moment hasn't been too big for him. That's what you take from these last 2 games more than anything. I think if you look at the ACC, I don't know why, the only team that I think might be better than Pitt, legitimately better than Pitt, is Miami. Everybody else that's on Pitt's schedule remaining, I don't know that we should be surprised if they beat any of them. The problem is Pat Narduzzi has this habit of losing a few games he's not supposed to, and that's, the rub. So, beating Florida State on the road, I think, that's a good win for Pitt. But I don't know that it defines their season like some people are trying to make it out to, because I look at Florida State's schedule, and if they don't win this week, they play, Stanford this week. If they don't win this week, I truly don't know that they're going to win another game the rest of the year. And that's pretty scary, but you know what? That's where that program is. So, and by the way, Florida State and Boston College are combined 0-7 in the ACC. So Pitt has basically beaten the bottom of the conference, but now, and I don't think Syracuse is very good either. But after, Syracuse, maybe there's a couple of teams that got to play that will show us a little bit more. It's just kind of a weird year for Pitt, where I actually think that they might be one of the best teams in the ACC by default.
Yeah, and I think it's, I think it's interesting how, if you look back to the year that they won the ACC, No one was picking Pitt that year, but there was a point in the schedule right where we are now where maybe they won a couple games that you weren't expecting. You said, hey, where are they going to lose the rest of the way? But to your point, Paul, we could have said the same thing going into SMU last year. We know what happened after that point. So it is a matter of, can Pitt beat every and any team on its remaining schedule? Probably. But can you demonstrate the week-to-week consistency to do that? I think that's a different question, especially when you have a freshman at quarterback. Paul, I did want to ask you about Mason Heintschel. What does it say about Pat Narduzzi that he had both of those quarterbacks in camp and chose Eli Holstein, knowing that Holstein didn't have exactly the perfect resume a year ago, but there was a lot of hype for him coming back. But the difference has been so night and day to me, Paul. How do you as a coaching staff not see that in the preseason?
Well, they did see it. They saw it in the spring. They saw it in the training camp. Anybody that was around training camp or anybody that was around the spring saw it. And universally said, by far the best quarterback in this room is Mason Heintschel. So it shows you the difference in the world of college athletics, though. When you give a guy $1.5 million or whatever they gave Eli Holstein, guess what? You're going to run with him, because at the end of the day, this is the guy that you've put all your eggs in his basket. And, there was some reason to do that, because before he got hurt, they were 7-0 last year, And so, the reality is he would have probably gone to the transfer portal and got money. So that's the way the game is played. I don't think it's right for college athletics, but it's where we're at. And so, you end up losing a couple of games, and now you lose a couple of games. It's easy to say, okay, we got to take this guy out, because the donors and people that are making it possible for you to pay these guys, ultimately they want to win. They, at the end of the year, they can complain about, hey, you wasted all this money on this guy, but they want to win. So that was a decision that was made almost purely, Adam, based on payroll. And you see it a lot of times in the NFL. Well, this guy here might be better, but this is the guy we're giving all the money to, so this is the guy we're putting out there. That's just how it is.
Paul, what's your biggest source of hope for this Pitt team? What's the biggest source of hope, and what's the biggest source of concern? We're going to start with hope. We're going to start with the positive, and I'll give you bonus points if it's something other than Mason Heintschel. Or is that just the only answer at this moment, is that he's a difference maker for this team?
No, I think one of the things about this team, the defense, I think, is getting better every week a little bit. I know they gave up some points to Florida State, but the defense, I think, is getting to a point where they can start to dictate some things, against teams, especially teams that don't have really great offenses and dynamic offenses. I honestly think the defense is getting better week to week. And so if they continue to get better, when they get to that end of the season where they have that gauntlet of, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami, they're going to have an opportunity maybe to win one or two of those games.
Pitt is a 10.5-point favorite, according to our friends at FanDuel, for this week's game against Fran Brown and Syracuse. So if you're interested in placing a wager on the game, it's a lot of points for Pitt, Paul. But if you're interested in throwing some money on the Panthers, make sure you check out our friends at FanDuel. Paul, we'll get you out of here on this. What's the biggest source of concern for you? Is it this offensive line? Is it the running back depth that we've been talking about at different points in time? Or is it something else?
I'm a Pat Narduzzi fan and supporter. I think he does a great job for Pitt, right? What he does wouldn't be good enough in other places, but for Pitt, I think he's perfect and does a great job. So I preface that because my concern is that his teams seem to lose games they're not supposed to lose. So whether that's him, his staff, karma, whatever, this is year 11. This is, year 11, I think, right? And out of the first 10 years, 8 of the first 10 years, they've lost 5 games or more. That's not something that is easy to do, I think, but they do. And so, when you play, for instance, NC State, do you have one of those games where you just completely melt down? Because they're good enough if you don't play well. Now, I don't think Syracuse can beat them. I think Syracuse, ever since their quarterback went down, they're lost, and they've been exposed a lot. But there's some other teams like NC State. You're supposed to, if you're Pitt, I'm sorry, you're supposed to beat NC State this year. And that's the kind of game I look at and say, okay, are you going to blow that game? Are you going to lose that game like you did against Louisville? Are you going to, I can't imagine you lose at Stanford, but you've got Syracuse. My thing is these next 3 games, you need to win comfortably. You've got Syracuse, Stanford, and NC State. You need to win those 3 games comfortably. My thing is, are you going to drop one? And if you do, that's a disaster.
Yeah, and again, I keep coming back to the SMU game a year ago. Kind of, it sent you down the trajectory of losing a lot of games that you probably shouldn't have lost, and they never really regained things. I think you have to give credit to Pat Narduzzi for it. Would have been easy after that Louisville loss to pack it in to some degree and to not play your best football, but they do look invigorated with Mason Heintschel, and they're on at least the upswing. The question is, can you keep that going the rest of the way? Because that's what it's going to take to get to the ACC title game. And of course, you have Miami on the schedule, and I think that's the biggest hurdle is that you're almost positioned that if you're going to win this conference, you got to beat Miami twice. I don't know that I super believe in Miami yet as a program. But beating any ranked team twice in the same season is going to be difficult. So I think it's a tall task, but I think you could still have a nice season if you're Pitt, even if you don't make it to Charlotte for the ACC title game. So we will keep paying attention to all of that.
The thing is, if you lose those last 3 games, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, it's what is this season? I guess you can say, well, we've got a rookie quarterback, a freshman quarterback that you can build on for the next couple of years. But
that's where you were at the beginning of this season, or I guess last season. You said still had a young quarterback with lots of control left.
Right. So, and the other part of it is, I don't care what anybody says. Oh, he's a loyal guy. He's not going to go anywhere, this and that, and everything. If he plays really well, how college football is. You're going to tell me LSU or Alabama or one of these programs needs a quarterback? They're going to throw $5-6 million at the kid. He's going to say no. I mean, it's all college athletics have become the ultimate. You've got to win now because your window is no longer 3 or 4 years. Well, used to be we bring in a recruiting class. We can redshirt most of these guys. Their freshman year, a lot of them. They redshirt. Then their freshman year, a lot of them play special teams, and maybe you're on the depth chart a little bit, right? Then their sophomore year, they play a little bit more, and then junior, their 3rd, 4th, and 5th years. Now, these are the guys that you are the heart of your program. It doesn't work that way anymore. That's all these Pitt basketball fans running around excited because they got 2 freshmen who ranked in the top 50 or whatever, and their class is now ranked number 12 for 2026. That's great. But next year they're going to be freshmen, okay? And guess what? You don't win with freshmen, okay? You just don't. I mean, you're playing against teams now that have 25-year-old guys out there running around with 5 years of experience, okay? And then if they're any good, you got to worry about losing them, at the end of the first season because Pitt has, Pitt's NIL is okay, but they can't, as we saw with what I can't think of his name, but went to Kentucky as we see Jalen Lowe, as we see if one of the bigger programs wants to come get your guys, they're going to outbid you for them. So it's become the ultimate. You've got to win now. I don't know. I mean, I think if you lose those 3 games at the end and you end up with 5 losses again, I just don't know what to think of the program and where it's at.
Yes, the exciting thing is we'll get to see them answer these questions down the stretch. Going to be more interesting, certainly, than Penn State will be with the fired coach and all that. So I'm excited to watch Pitt, maybe as a Penn State crowd with a little more intent the rest of the way. Paul, thank you for joining me this week. If you're new here, please subscribe to our new Pitt channel. Be great to have you along for the ride. Stephen Thompson, Abby Schnabel, they do a great job on this beat as well. So make sure you subscribe. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Help us out in the YouTube algorithm. And please check out our written work at post-gazette.com. Lots of coverage there. We'd love to have you as a subscriber there. So check all of that out. And we will talk to you again next week.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.